Hello, 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 hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Shall we start? Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for your participation in today's Women Decision Science seminar. My name is Firuze Javadi from Integration Team of Institute of Decision Science for a Sustainable Society. Today, I am going to talk about the gender equality in academia and research. And where are we and what does it matter? Before I start, maybe you can see the screen of my first slide. Can you see this screen of my slide? It is about the Sustainable Development Goals. You may know about the Sustainable Development Goals. It is created by the United Nations in 2015 to 2030. There are 70 goals, and when we wanted to know about it, please remember 5P. The first P is people, to end poverty and hunger. The second P is planet. It means that to protect the planet from degradation, sustainable management of natural resources. The third P is prosperity, to ensure that all human beings can enjoy the lives. The fourth P is peace, to provide society which are free from the fear and violence. And the 5P is to implement this agenda through the global partnership. It means that the fifth P is partnership. Women have a critical role to play in all of the 17 SDGs. But my talk today is related to the SDG 4. It means that ensure equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunity for all. And the second SDG, SDG 5, is achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Okay. For the first, let's have one question. I would like to ask you. The first question is, what does the term sustainable mean? A. The implementation of eco-friendly technology. B. A balance between meeting today's needs with those of the future. C. The use of alternative energy. Which one is correct? Please write your message in the message parts of the YouTube. A, B, or C? I cannot see the message here. I don't know the issue. Hello. I don't. Okay, the number. I would like to know that the questions, the answer. The correct answer is the B. A balance between meeting today's needs with those of the future. The second question: how the Sustainable Development Goals are described in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. A. They are goals to be applied in certain countries. B. They imply a mandatory and international set of development models. C. They are universal, applicable to all countries while respecting national context. Which one is correct? A, B, C. It seems that there is some issue. Okay, the second question is C is correct. The sustainable, they are universal, applicable to all countries while respecting national. The third question is which country first gave women voting rights? Finland, B. United States, C. Switzerland, D. New Zealand. Will you please write in the comments part, in the chat part column? Okay, yes, D is correct, New Zealand. I am from Iran, and maybe some of you sometimes ask me that you don't have any imagination about Iran, and sometimes my friends or other persons say that Iran and Iraq is the same, or uh, so. Let me just briefly tell about that, share with you about the Iran. Iran, sorry, Iran is located in the southwest of Asia, and the total area is 1,648 million square kilometer, and the language is Persian or Farsi. The neighbor country in the west part is Iraq and Turkey, and in the east part, our neighbor country is Pakistan, Afghanistan, and in the uh, northeast is Turkmenistan. But Iran is, I am from Tehran, the capital city of Iran, and we have the Iran has a the highest mountain is Mount Damavand, is one of the highest volcano, uh, and it is about 5,671 meter. It is near to the Tehran, and we also in the north part is the near to the Caspian Sea, and is the weather is the same as Japan, and we have a rice field and also the forest area you can see here, and also the some church, black church, historical places, and also the Sheikh Latfallah Mosque in Isfahan, in center part of Iran, and some world heritage. Maybe you hear about it, about the Persepolis or Takht Jamshid, and also the Pink Mosque in Shiraz. Also, we have a desert, is a world heritage, and Urumia Salt Lake is the largest saltwater lake in the world, and is the largest lake in the Middle East. And also in the south part of Iran, we have a mangrove forest. And also, maybe you hear about that the statue from Iran, or saffron, pomegranate, caviar, and carpet, or Persian cat. Okay, education. Today's my outline talks is about. I am going to talk about the women and education in world and Iran, and women are leaving academia, and the third part is impact of COVID-19 pandemic on academia and research. Education is a human right. Investing in girls' education delivers high returns not only for female education attainment, but also for maternal and children's health, more sustainable families, women empowerment, democracy, income growth, and productivity. When how about the women, the education of the women in the world? This is a good news that we women are more educated today than at any point in history. Here you can see the data of the sample data from the 126 countries, and it is the on available data the, from the 126 country in from 1960 to 2010. As you can see in this the figure in the left side, uh, you can see that the trajectory of female and male educational attainment, and the x-axis shows the male years of schooling, and the y-axis shows the female years of schooling. The country with the largest gain in female schooling is the United Arab Emirates, the blue line, and the smaller gains in adult female schooling is the Senegal. But in general, it is very good situation about the women education. We have now than ever before. But please look at the table 1. It means that the table in the right side, this shows that the ratio of males to females education level into 2010 in 6 regions. We see that we are still not as educated as men. As you can see in this figure, even in Latin America, third line, Latin America and Caribbean, which the complete secondary school is the same, almost is the same as the men, but we are seeing that about 1.48 women for every man have no schooling at all. So it means that more effort we need to do. So now let's look at the education system in Iran. Education system in Iran started from the kindergarten at the age of the 5, and it is about 1 year, and then we have a primary school at the age of 6, and the duration is 5 years, and then we have a lower secondary school. It is from 6 to 8th grade, and then we have a upper secondary school. It is about 3 years. If you see the figure in the right side, you can see that in Iran, the country they shows that the gross enrollment ratio in tertiary education, and you can see that the growth increasing, the level increasing, and to the, for example, in 2006 start to increase and to reach to the most developed country such as the US in the recent years. And also when we see that in the next slide, you can see that for about a decade, Iran there is no gap between the male and female enrollment in primary and secondary education. As you can see here in the figure, the blue color shows the 2015, and the red color, the triangle, is the 2005, and rhombic is the yellow color, is 1990, and it shows that the female to male ratio, and you can see that there is no gap between the male and female. Also the gender gap in tertiary education enrollment is small, and in some fields such as engineering and science, women are now in the majority. Let's look at the also when we look at in the rural area and urban area, we can see that also Iran trying that eliminate gender gaps in education and health indicator, and we can see that especially and also the family is trying to investigate more for the children education, and you can see that in the rural area between the men and women, it is not they are reaching together, and also in the urban area the urban area man is the red color, and the yellow line is urban for women, and in the rural men blue line, and rural women is green line. You can, and even you can see that in the, the youngest cohorts born after 1980, you can see that especially for women, have gained high education compared to their parents in 1960. And you can see this is the great effort from our government that they are trying to do for the educating of the people. And when and also we can see that Iran has reduced the illiteracy among youths and also increased its capacity for higher education. The total number of enrolled at the university, as you can see in these figures from 2006 2016, when you compare these two, you can see that the students enrolled at university almost double. Please look at the green color. And by 2026, Iran is projected to accommodate a large number of highly educated people when more than half of the residents aged between 25 to 34. But the question, and also the question is also we can see that Iran is a fifth rank in the STEM. Means that the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. As you can see in the left figure, and that Iran after Russia is the fifth country, fifth ranked. And also 70% of Iran's science and engineering students are women. On the other side, you can see in the right figure that in the nanotechnology, Iran ranked 7th worldwide for the number of the nanotech related papers after the Japan. But the question is that does eliminating gender gaps in education produce equal life outcomes for women? And is this positive trend in Iranians' education, especially women, will translate economic growth? Let's look at at first to Japan. The good news is female employment. You know that President Abe introduced womenomics as a national priority. The proposal is to boost female employment, include expanded daycare and nursing care services, and also about the flexible work arrangement. But we can see that the good news that the Japanese female employment rate have continued to increase since 2005. Please look at in the left in the x-axis, the 00 is 2000 and 05 is 2005. And you can see that the employment rate increase from the, for example, to 60% in 2009. So that is a very good news. But when we compare Japan with other countries, that we see that there are too few female role models in Japan. Please look at the right figure, the right side figure, and you can see that when we compare Japan's female with, for example, Germany and Sweden, that you can see that for example, the Japan females employment rate of 60 percentage, which is for example is very below from the some developed countries such as Norway, which is about 75 percentage, or at the US is the about 66 percentage, or Germany it is the 64. And in the left side, the figure in the left side, you can see the also the comparison of the leader and manager in 2003 and 2008. The white color in the shows that 2000 related to the 2003, and the blue dress color you can see it is the 2008, related to 2008. You can see that in Japan, for example in Germany, we can see that about 35 to 40 percentage the number of the leader and the manager position increasing, but in Japan still there is very low. It is about it is not changes in 2003 and 2008. It is almost 9 percentage. Do you have any question or any? Hello? Sorry, it seems that I didn't see any message. Okay, you hear me. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next one is about the wage gap between the men and women in Japan. We can see that although that Japan they wanted to become the decrease the wage gap between the men and women, but when you compare with the other developed country, for example with Sweden, we can see that still there is very low. But and also for example when you compare with Sweden, you can see that Japan's gap is nearly twice that of Sweden, but still smaller than that of Korea. But now the question is about the Iran. How about the Iran? In Iran, we have a high percentage of Iranian women in engineering. As you can see here, when you compare the blue line, I make a circle in this figure. And they show that when we compare with developed countries like as the US and Canada, UK, and France and Germany, you can see that Iran has a high percentage of Iranian women in. You can see high percentage of Iranian women in engineering. But when you see that the female labor force, and there is a very low when you compare with the developed country. So that is the one issue, major issue. And also we can see that in Iran, uh, you can see that the women in the market work is less than one fourth of the rate for women for men. Um, Please, you can see that both figure they show that the men and women, and also compare the married and unmarried people. The blue line show the men, and the red one is the women, and you can see that there is a huge difference between the men and women. It is the one fourth rate for the men. So that is the big issue. We have um, more educated people in our society, but there is a very low in the labor market. But what is this? What is the why there is such kind of the low female labor force participation in Iran? One is about that the low level of job creation, especially in the private sector. Due to Iran and economy of Iran reliance on oil, so the majority of the sector is related to that own sector, and also the some of them is related to the agriculture and lower skill service sectors that didn't match the skill set of Iran's highly educated female college graduates. So that is the one big issue. The other one is about the wage gap between the men and women in Iran. The third one is the personal and family responsibility. As you can see in the figure 70, there is a survey between the female and male that about the job search, and you can see here they say that 72% of Iranian women replied they were not looking for a job because of personal and family responsibility, when we compare to only 2% for men. And also some of them related to the, for example, they say that they don't need to work, and the other person they say because of the illness or temporary disability or pregnancy, or maybe discouraged about from the looking for job. The other issue is about the gender-based legal restrictions. What does it mean? In Iran, for example, married women, when they wanted to do some business, to start some business, it needs to get the permission from their husband. Or, for example, when they wanted to travel, if they married, even they wanted to apply for to get the passport, it needs to get the permission from the husband. How about in Japan? Do you need some permission? Oh, good. Okay. So, yeah, and so we have such kind of the system, unfortunately, that I also didn't know about that. And when I went to Iran 4 or 5 years ago with my husband, and they say that it needs to get the permission when I wanted to come, and that is a very big issue that I surprised about that. By the way, that this is the one issue that we need to solve in Iran, in our country. But the question and now we have this big issue in Iran. So mm, we need to make some policy and our government to encourage greater female participation in the labor force in Iran. But how to do, what kind of the policy we need to do? And one is about the reduce the wage gap between the women and men. And also the second one is reduce the cost to families of having women working outside the home. And the third is introduce a childcare subsidy payment to low and middle income formal female workers. That is the we need to change the policy for the women. As you can see here that we the women has and we have a high educated and increasing the educated of the people and especially the women in Iran, but the labor market and also the economic growth is it doesn't solve anything. It's just educate. But uh, for so we need to provide the policy and the solution for the providing the job for the women in Iran and reduce this uh, uh, reduce this labor and increase the labor force participation. And until now, do you have any question? Okay, if you don't have any question, let me continue for the next part of my talk. We see that we have also in a very good situation that women in research and we have a higher education, uh, the number of the women in research and higher education is improving, but this improve is so slow. But why this happen for the people, for the women? When we see that in about the 28 percentage of the global researchers are women. As you can see in this figure, according to the available data that is from the UNESCO in 2016, they shows that the for example, there is some variation also at the national and regional level between among the women, but you can see that the highest in Southeast Europe is about 49%, percentage, for instance, in the Caribbean. And then we have a 44 percentage in Central Asia and Latin America, and about the 40 percentage in Eastern Europe, and about 37 in Arab country. And also we have but the lowest is the South Africa and also the Southeast Asia. But even in some high income countries, it is surprising that there is the low proportion of female researchers. For example, just 1 in 4 researchers is a woman in France, Germany, and Netherlands. Or also even lower proportions are to be found in the also in Korea is about 18 percentage, or in Japan is the 15 percentage. So that is the one we see that it is surprising. The other things that we see that really women are leaving the academia. We see that when we see in the we comes to the women participation in research, we see that like a leaky pipeline, means that women are actively pursuing bachelor and master degree, and it is about 53 percentage is, and even is the higher than men at this level. And but their number dropped suddenly to the 43 percentage. It means that 57 percentage it's a male graduate. And then we see that again decreasing the number, and it's became 28 percentage. So that is, it means that the 72 percentage are men researchers. But why such kind of the scale we are seeing? We can see this here. The researchers in the there is some research in the California, and it is the global survey about in the physicists for the 15,000 physicists, and this is the table is related to that survey. And the question is that who has access to professional resources? Means that why as a scientist and researchers need to have for example the fund for the doing their research. They need the office space, they need the lab space, or even they have the experiments, they need the equipment, or for example for attending in the conference they need the support for traveling, and also the clerical and also the students employee they need. But when we look at and these tables give the percentage of yes answer, it means that they survey between the less developed country and very highly developed countries. And when we look at the table, you can see that the number when you compare between the developed country and developing country, as you can see that the women are less likely than men to report that they have adequate access to the key resources. It means that about the funding or office space, lab space, equipment, travel money, employee or students. And the other things that about the funding and salary gaps. And you can see that in the funding and salary gaps, uh, you when for example in we can find that there is some uh, disparities in grant funding in some countries. For example, in the United States, women are slightly more successful than men in obtaining grants from the National Science Foundation. But when, for example, in National Institute of Health, we can say that they give some, the women give the smaller awards on average. And you can see in this figure, the men is the yellow color and the orange color is the women. And you can see that in some parts is the 24 percentage proportion going to women. Number of the research grants in 2002. But in other countries, for example, there is a different in the some countries. For example, in Sweden, in the Gothenburg University, they found that they give more, for example, 2.5 times higher postdoctoral fellowship to the female students than men. And also, the Canadian Medical Research Council found no differences in success rate in most researchers. And also in the UK Medical Research Council and the Biomedical Research found no effects of the gender. So there is a difference. How about in Japan? Is there any differences? Or for example, do you find something differences about they give more funds or affect the gender affect about getting the fund? Okay, so I didn't see the messages, so let me continue my study. Hello. It seems that there is connection disrupt. Is it connection good? Okay. Can you see my slide? Because I didn't, my slide in here is not working. Okay. If it's okay, I will continue. Is it okay? Okay. Thank you very much. The other issue is the salary gaps, which we also talk about that. But in also in and there is some inequality about the salary. For example, in the European Union, female scientists earn on average between 25 percentage and and for 40 percentage less than male scientists in the public sector in 2006. And also, in although the average pay gap is smaller in the United States, but in some field, for example, the disparity is some field, especially, for example, here you can see in the physics and astronomy, uh, there are women earn 40 percentage less than men. That is the one also issue we have in we see that. And other things is related to the live issue. For example, there in the research of the Shen, which is published in the Nature, they show that in Spain, men are 2.5 times more likely to rise to the rank of the full professor than female colleagues with the same experience and same age. So that is also the one other issue there is. But next, and also the other one is we can see the between the, for example, the as you can see in this figure, you can see that it is the data is from the two big grant, two agency, the National Health Institute, and also the NSF is the National Science Foundation, and that they gave the grant to the university in US and college. But you can see that in the figure, women with a much larger proportion of the postdoctoral fellowships given by this agency than they do postdoctoral fellowship. As you can see that the blue is the NIH and the red is the NSF, as you can see here. And also you can see the drop off in relationship. For example, 63% and 54% of NIH and NSF predoctoral awards in 2007, but just 25% and 23% of competitive faculty grants awarded in the same year. So that is the very big issue that we can see that this is the dramatic change and dramatic drop during of research career. And the other things that I would like to share with you is about the family responsibility. In this is about that this research is in the California University. Sorry, it is a Berkeley University, and their finding shows that the family formation and most important the marriage and childbirth account for the largest leaks in the pipeline between the PhD and obtaining of tenure for women in the sciences. And specifically you can see that the women who are married with children in the sciences are 35% less likely to enter a tenure track. Please look at the left part here, they say that. And also you can see that they are 27% less likely than their male counterparts to achieve the tenure upon entering the tenure track job. So that is the emphasizes, and this finding that emphasize and illustrate that the family formation, especially the marriage and childbirth, is the most important reason why women with PhD in the science don't begin the academic careers with tenure track jobs. And also, the finding indicate that the marriage and children, but not only the marriage, keep women from getting tenure. So that is the this finding emphasize on the married and also the children and the family responsibility that make that such kind of the leaky pipeline. And the next I would like to share with you is the time pressure in academia. As you can see in this figure, it is also the data from the Berkeley, and they shows that the y-axis shows that the total hours per week, and also they show that the x-axis shows that the women with children and men with children, women without children and men without children. So this is the comparison and related to the total hours per week, and they found that the for most faculty in the sciences who work on average about 50 hours per week to the age of the 62. And also they found that the women faculty with children, as you can see, they report the weekly average of hours is about over 100 hours of combined activity. It means that compared to the 86 hours for the men with children. So it means that we combine the professional, and it means that the university work, housework, and caregiving. So, and women faculty with children provide an average of more than 30 hours a week caregiving, and up to through age 15. That is the one other issue which needs that the policy need to address this long-term career life issue among the academia. The other things that about the housework around the world. This is the data about the 50,000 physicists that the survey shows that for the less developed country and the very highly developed countries, and the majority of housework is more likely to be done by women than men. And this just this is the survey and questionnaire survey they did, and the response usually for example, women when they respond are more likely than men to report that to do more housework than their spouse or partners. So that is double this survey's results indicate that if the if family responsibility do affect the physics career, they are more likely to affect women than men. But why this happen? Because they think that it makes the for example, if the somebody needs to care for a sick child or family members, it make economic sense for the partner who make less money to take in this responsibility. But again, this related to the cultural expectation. It means that women uh, were more likely than men to say that their careers affected decision about the family life. So mm, this is the one things that need to emphasize about that. And the other one is about the children, and the having children. When again this survey, they ask about is there having the children affect about your career, and they say, for example, most of the women, they say that they tends to, having the children tends to slow the career progress of women physicists, but not that for their male counterparts. And this is the one other issue. But when we look at this one, we think that the cultural expectation that women are responsible for childcare is important. That is it means that the sex difference they have found exists not because women are treated differently. It means that the sex, it is the male or female is not uh, here affected. They don't think that the sex differences. They only they are differ from their expectation about the work, about the, this is the cultural expectation about home and family, that is important factors in this survey shows. So this is the that the be in this research wants to emphasize about that the cultural expectation about the home and the family also inhibit the progress of the women physicists. And it might be much difficult to change, but we need to look at to look forward to a future in which science truly means science needs them. And the other issue is about that the recent published by two persons in 2020 in the PNAS, and it's about is do the social roles that women and men occupy in science allow equal access to publications. And that is the very good data, and they study about they found that although for example the academic job title is the faculty member, but the responsibility also is important. For example, even the tenure professor differ greatly in the allocation of their time to their research, teaching, and administration. So in this survey, they study and about that the different responsibility about the research and development, the blue collar, and the teaching, and also the managing or supervising the people. This comparison between the men and women in 1997 and 2017, they shows that it is related to the NSF survey of doctoral researchers, and they say they see that the percentage of women increase in all three areas, as more women entered the science careers. And this increase was most notable in teaching and in managing or supervising the people. As you can see here in the 2017 and also in 1997, you see that the increasing mainly in the managing or supervising the people or teaching. So the, the key points that in here they wanted to emphasize is that hiring is only a first step. So we need to also, it is important to define our academic jobs in terms of teaching, research, and other application that they need to do, the researchers. And also, these considerations are more subtle than outright employment discrimination, and it is also more important to contemporary women's publications career. So we, we find that a key component of the gender gaps in the productivity and impact may not be rooted in a gender-specific process through which academic conduct research and contribute publication, but by the gender-specific sustainability of that efforts over the course of entire academic career. So that is the main issue we need to emphasize here. So it means that it is important to emphasize that the end of publishing career doesn't always imply an end of the academic careers. So we need to consider that the other responsibility of the researchers during the career. Do you have any questions? Okay. Let's now I move to the so let's to see that we found that there is some discrepancies, and this it means that women faculty are paid less, promoted more slowly, and hold fewer leadership positions. But these discrepancies not based on productivity or significance of their work or any other measure of performance. So what to do? One thing is that the change of our mind or change society, it means that the gender equality closes the gap. And the question is that what makes a country gender equal? And one is about the economy and also education, health, and politics. That is the important for the to make a important for the gender gap. And the other things that I would like to talk is about that. Do you have any questions? Okay. About now, we are in the environment of the COVID, and the COVID-19 pandemic has affected also work and family life for many persons, including the academic researchers. So, what is the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on academia and research? And this is the actually this situation and environment provide scientists and researchers and the new culture of doing the research. It means that the scientists in this paper shows that the scientists are sharing more information using preprints than they did during any previous outbreak. And the number of the published paper is exploding as well. So there is the intense communications and also the unusual level of collaboration among the scientists. And in this research, uh, for example, in previous time, the researchers sometimes only sat and to check that the paper was accepted by a high profile or peer review journals because they are worried about the competitors. But now the situation and the platform is changed, and before that there wasn't such a natural platform to do. Now they, for example, they use the preprint, and this research shows that more than 283 papers had already appeared on the preprint. For example, compared with the 261 publishing journal. And we can see that the two of the largest biomedical preprint servers, one is the bio archive and and also the med archive, and they are currently working on getting around 10 papers each day. So as you can see that here that from the February the number of the preprints of the paper is increasing. And the other one you can see here is about that the research is about that how much are women posting the paper on medRxiv, and also the sorry, let me check, there is something. Yeah, medRxiv, and also the bioarchive, and they see that when they compare this in this paper, they see that each sorry, there is something. Is it the can you see my PowerPoint? Yeah, okay, thank you. Because there is some here there is some issue, so it is no problem. So we see that also that if you the green color, the green line shows that the archive, and the yellow is bioarchive, and the blue is medRxiv. And you see that the in the women women's research, we see that in the we observe the lower rate of submission from women for March and April compared with the both preceding 2 months in 2020. And also, but we see that in the archive, it is not changes, it is almost the same. But in the other two journals, reprint journals, they are decreasing. So that is they shows that the women little in female authorship was affecting by posting the research in different journals. The other topic is about that they are the survey about the female first author contribute less to COVID-19 studies than research in other areas. And in this research also they wanted to see that is there any, for example, there female researchers doing the research related to the COVID, and the blue line in the left figure shows that the research related to the COVID, and the yellow color shows that the other researchers. Um, but they see that the the women there are not it seems that the women they are absent about the research on COVID-19, and this shows that emphasize that of aspect of the virus that are particularly important for certain populations. And the other, the right figure also shows that they show the overall women submitted in different journals in different for example from January to February in 2019, and also in the same year in same months in 2020, and also the March April 2019 and March April in 2020. And they see that in overall women submitted fewer papers in March and April compared to the same months in 2019. Particularly to the Earth Archive and Med Archive and other journals. But there is also the research about that we can see that this is the research about that women as authors for the submission of paper to the ecology journals and during the COVID-19 pandemic, and they see that there is no evidence of a decline, and they selected the 6 journals in as you can see in the figure, the left side you can see the figure A and B, and they both of them they don't show that they don't find any decreasing of the number of the papers submitted by the women. That also and also in the figure 2 in the right side they did some cumulative data across the 5 journals and from the 5 regions of the world, and for example in the Latin America, in UK, and in China, US, and Europe, and they see that there is no unusual patterns of the submitting of the paper by the women. So this research is different from the previous researchers, that they shows that there is no decline of the submitting paper in 6 journals in the journal in the ecology journals, but they think that maybe it is related to the limited time that they research related to the limited time, and so it needs more. For example, during a short window of time, this research has the survey was done, so it needs more. They think that it needs to extend this analysis and to see that is there any can conclude submission of the paper by women impacted similarly to those by men or not. So they wanted to compare between the men and men. men and women. This is the other things, and the other research is about that they wanted to see that is there authorship gender gap in the medical literature uh, among the women and men, and this also they choose the in this research they analyzed the paper into the first author, three panel they use. One is the first authorship, the B is the last authorships, and the C is the full groups. And the papers in 2019 and the papers related to the COVID-19, and this they wanted to compare the preparation of the men and women medical researchers publishing on the coronavirus to those publishing in the same journals in 2019. So they found that there is some difference in and as you can see, and they found that and the women shares of first authorship and last authorship and general representative per author group, or we can say that 23rd percentage for the first authorship, and 16 percentage for the last authorship, and 16 percentage again for the general representative per author group, lower for COVID-19 papers compared to the 2019 paper published in the same journals. So they found that here it is different from the previous research. They show that they found that the decreasing of the observe of the proportion of the women publication, and this finding also is consistent with the idea that restricted access to the child care and increase the work-related demands for early careers women. But still it needs need more evidence to show especially for ethnic group, and also about the age, need to monitor and to inform and to provide the policy for this situation. And the other also so researchers at risk need institutional support, and there is some suggestion by researcher, and they suggested that the extending deadline of graduate programs, or extension for qualifying examination and defenses application of current students, and also the extended fellowship for doctoral students and postdoctoral students, and also the tenure track faculty should receive an extension on their clock. And they mention about the robust scientific environment requires the participation of all members of the population. And let me close. This is a very we have unusual situation, but the situation provides opportunity for us, as we see in also the previous paper. I talked that the culture of they cultivate the new environment and new research collaboration. And let me close my talk today with the Iranian poet Saadi, which you can also see in the United Nations, that they say that human beings are members of a whole, since in their creation they are of one essence. when the condition of the time brings a member to pain, the other members will suffer from discomfort. You who are indifferent to the misery of others, it is not fitting that they should call you a human being. And also, the are the first human right, the world's first written human rights related to the 2006 years ago, which prepared by our Persian king Cyrus. And also let me share some successful of Iranian women. One is the Professor Maryam Mirzakhani, who is the first woman and first Iranian to win a mathematics field medal in 2014. And also our Miss Shirin Ebadi, who won the Nobel Prize for Peace in 2003. And also the Pardis Sabeti, who is a professor and researchers and has received very many awards, and he is one of the person whose research is about the Ebola fighters, and put as the one of the 100 researchers in the Time magazine. And also the Anousheh Ansari, first female private space explorer. Thank you very much for today's participation and listening. دوماری کاتا گزاری ماشتا. And if you have any question, please please write in the chat part. And if you don't have any question, we can close today's session. Thank you very much for your participation and have a nice day. Thank you.